everyone, welcome to this tournament recap. It's been a while since I've played any form of competitive 40k at an event, so super pumped to get back on the horse here. The last time I played was back in the GT in June, which was a lot of fun, but many things have changed. A few things have changed with Tyranids, not a ton of stuff. But I have made the switch to Kraken, and the other exciting thing about this tournament is it is a team event. It is the first team event I have ever played. I'm extremely excited for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't played a ton of 40k. Work has been busy, but things are kind of steadying out now, so definitely getting a chance to attend events and get more gaming in, which is very exciting. You've seen the stream of battle reports returning. That is all my games from July up till now catching up on. So yeah, very excited to be back to it, and just hoping to get some good matches in for the event, which is tomorrow. Right now, if you're watching this, obviously the event is over and you're getting the recap. So I'm running with High Fleet Kraken. Made the move to them. I've been playing a few games with it and have had a lot of fun. For this team event, I am teaming with two very good friends. Guardsmen Gord, you know him on the channel. It's been a while since he's been on here, but if you're a Basement Wargaming fan from back in the day, you've seen him play a ton with the Shiny Guard, his Tau and Space Wolves. He's running Tau for the event, so incredibly pumped to finally get to do a team event with him. He played a few through 8th edition while I kind of took a break from 40k, and he'd always tried to get me to attend them, and I'm excited that the opportunities finally come up so we both get to play. As well as our third member, it's a 3-team event, is none other than Nurgle Snurgle from Ras Reach. She's been up here on the channel, as well. If you've seen me down there, I've shared a few links for them, of course, and I love supporting my fellow local content creators. So very excited. She's running, of course, Nurgle, so Nurgle Daemons. So we got a good set of lists here. Very excited for that. I'll share theirs, and there's probably a little write-up in the next one. I'll try and get a photo of it, but we'll see how the day goes. Like I said, it's been a while since I played an event. Been a while since I've got to see a lot of friends I've made through 40k in the local scene, so I'll try my best to film, but maybe some catching up, as well as just taking the whole experience of a team event. But we're going to look at my list here. I'm going to give you my thoughts going in on how it's going to play, and hopefully it plays the way I'm hoping it plays the way I'm hoping. So it's 2,000 points here. We got High Fleet Kraken. It's 2 patrols. As you can tell, we've got the double Tyrant here. And so looking at that, just keep that in mind. It's 2 patrols. I'm starting with 1 CP. So on the Reaper Tyrant, the nerfed Reaper, and adaptive biology on it as well. It is not the Warlord. For powers, I'm running Neuroparasite and Psychic Stream, going offensive route with that. Of course, Adrenal Glands as well. Then we have the Walking Hive Tyrant, who has Shardgullet. I went with that because I don't have a ton of shooting. I want something that had kind of a punch. Maybe should have went for a different relic, or maybe another Warlord trait. I don't know. I've enjoyed Shardgullet when I've used it, and I've got Tyrant cards, so I'm going to try to do some shooting with it. So that is another CP spent there, so that is where I'm starting with 1. Then we've got a and then powers on the Walkrent. He has Paroxysm and the Horror, so going to be doing some buffing from the back, chaining forward. We've got a Neurothrope with Catalyst Onslaught. Into the elites, we've got, of course, well, no Force Org slot for the Tyrant Guard. Then we've got, they're also just Scything Talons. 2 units of Zoes, so the ones that are taller there, that managed to not break off their fine cast little piece. They're rolling with Neuroparasite. The shorter ones have the Horror for powers. Into the troop slot, we've got 3 Warriors, Bone Swords, Death Spitters, and 1 Venom Cannon, just for some long range potential Shardler if I need it, and just to kind of pop a few shots. Now I have 5 points, and like with Tyranids, what do you do with 5 points? I could have given Flesh Hooks, but it's a unit of 3, so I don't know. Venom Cannon, we'll see what happens. 10 Hormigons, 10 Gargoyles. Into my fast attack slot, of course, my beloved Raveners, 2 units of 5, all with Rending Claws, Death Spitters. Very excited to put them into the list. I have so much fun with them. And like I said, I think this is a really solid Kraken list, very aggressive. But I'm just pumped to kind of use a lot of these units. The game obviously pivoting away from Leviathan. Leviathan is still definitely viable. There's a few lists I'm going to try out, but I really enjoy Kraken when you get down to it. 3 Venom Thropes, and then 2 Pyrovores. So these are new for me. Got myself some Pyrovores finally. Really excited to give them a go. I had 80 points. I was going to take the Parasite, but I don't know. I felt like I did have a lot of Synapse present, and the Tyrannicide also is synaptically enhanced. So it's going to be a forward synapse node. So potentially might be potting in either the double unit of Zoes for some instant mortal wounds flying down, as well as just having a durable unit forward to help take some pressure off that they can't be ignored as well. Or I might throw in the Pyrivores with some Warriors. I don't know. I really like this, or I can even just do the Raptors. I have loads of flexibility, so very eager to give that a go. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned, I have my 3 Biovores as well, kind of grazed over them. So going to be dropping out tons of Spore Mines, protecting the Raveners through Overrun and hiding in terrain, or just really hampering movement and forcing in my opponent's hand. So yeah, really excited about how this list is going to play out. Should be a ton of fun. Like I said, I haven't played a lot. It is a list that I think that's going to test my skill a bit, and coming back into the competitive scene, I'm very eager for the opportunity to do that, and just, again, kind of get back into the swing of things, attending events. Ideally, every 2 to 3 months, attend one big event if I can. Just family life and work is always busy, but certainly love getting out for some 40K. So that is my list. You're going to check out my teammates list, this event as well. I should give a nice shout out to Ras Reach, is being put on by them, so big shout out to the folks for putting that on. Nick has done a lot. You've seen him on the channel here, as well as I played him on the Ras Reach stream as well. Has put a lot of work. He's TO for the event, so big shout out to him and Ras Reach for putting this on. So let's check out the list for my squad mates here, and then we're going to jump into a little bit of the event. Like I said, I'm going to do my absolute best. Not filming this beforehand, so trying to put a little pressure on myself to have to follow through on getting some footage. So again, I'll do my best. Of course, there'll be a voiceover, and I'll be talking about the pairings. We've been doing a bit of mock pairings as well. The 3 of us have been going through our opponent's list and just setting up pairings as best as possible. So it is a ton of fun. I haven't even played it yet, but just kind of going through in the pairings and how it can work out. I'm very hooked on team events. This is the first one, to my knowledge, locally for our competitive scene. For the province we're in, so really cool. Hoping it goes over well. I think there's 12 teams, I believe, in it, so loads of folks. Really good variety in the armies. I think there's actually only 1.5 Tyranid players aside from myself. A friend of mine is playing Soup with the GSC, so I say 0.5, and then there's one other Kraken list, so should be interesting. So all right, everyone, let's jump into it. I will say, so going into this, there is like I said, a bit of a gap since I played it, since I played kind of competitively last. So I'm aiming to go 2-1. We'll have the squad go 2-1. I think would be a successful day, and I'd feel very happy about that. Like I said, I just want to pull out some good games, get some good matchups in there, and kind of experience the team event. So personal goal, 2-1. Obviously, where it's a competitive event, you want the team to go 3-0. But you know what? We're going to go into this just with a good mindset and just kind of enjoy the experience again. First team event for many people here, obviously myself included. So let's take a look at the rest of the list here that I'm teaming with, and then we're going to jump into the event.
Hey guys, and welcome to Basement Wargaming.
All right, here we are. So you saw the venue, fantastic space. Very excited about this. Very spacious. The tournament organizers found it's a great spot. As you saw, there's I think roughly 32 people, I believe, for the event, and even then, still loads of space to walk around the table, sit down. So fantastic. Couldn't wait to get into this. So round 1 pairings drop, and we're up against none other than VFD. So we were hoping to face VFD later in the event. Very tough team for us. Some good matchups in there. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in all seriousness, wonderful group of guys. Very excited to play against them. So it was going to be a good time and good way to kind of just absolutely knock the rust off for round 1 here. So the way this works, if you're not familiar with team events, this is my first team event as well. Quite a bit of it is new to me. So this first round, it was randomly determined who is the defender and who is the attacker. And then the defender puts 1 list forward, followed by the attacker putting 2 lists forward. Then the defender picks one of those 2 lists who they are going to face. And then from there, the attacker gets to pick the table, and then the attacker then picks the last 2 matchups with the defender picking the tables that would be played on. So the terrain was fantastic. Each table was, I would say, significantly different, catering to a few different play styles. So it really added some weight into which table you picked and what you were going to play on. Because often for competitive events, you want to have a very symmetrical table to keep things even. But with team events, it allows you, the tournament organizers, to give a bit of variety, which I thought was really cool and also very refreshing from a competitive standpoint. So initial thoughts thus far, team events, very cool. Really enjoying how everything shakes up. So also a little disclaimer as well. This was my first event. I know I said this already. In a while, so getting to catch up with everyone kind of took priority for me. So I didn't get as much video or photos of the actual games themselves. So I got a couple of shots from each one, but I'm going to talk you all through it. So hopefully you like listening to me. I will say fantastic games for the day as well. So I encourage you to listen to my voice. Hopefully you enjoy it. So here we go. The round begins. VFD is the defender, and they put forward Knights. So to answer to that, we put forward Tau and my Tyranids. We really, for this matchup, we knew the Ynnari list was going to be a tough one, no matter who faced them. So our goal here was to get 2 matchups that we should be able to pull out decent wins on, with the third, old Nurgle Snurgle volunteered to take on the Ynnari and eat that matchup. So with Tau and Tyranids forward, the Knights chose to go against my Tyranids, which actually I was excited about this matchup. It was one, my opponent is an individual I really enjoy playing against, as well as it was a list I think I had a bit of an edge on. But again, that's everything going good. So we were happy about that. And then the Wolves taking on the Tau was a good matchup. Gord plays Wolves as one of his main factions too, so he does know it very well. Which definitely helps him out in that matchup more so than, say, myself versus them. So there we are. Tyranids taking on Knights, Nurgle taking on Ynnari, and Tau taking on the Space Wolves. So in this round, we were playing Tide of Conviction. Very happy about the table that we ended up on from a match. Lots of obscuring terrain and still lots of sight lines too. So I did have to be a little wary in how we positioned ourselves for the game. So for secondary objectives, I went with behind enemy lines where I had the terrain on site, and he didn't have it's Knights, they don't have a ton of models. So I figured there should be some pockets there that I can get into his area, plus having Raveners and Gargoyles so I can end the Tyrant. I should be able to get back there, no problem. Obviously Bring It Down is the other very obvious choice, and then Banners. I figure another safe one. I have a lot of chaff to chew through and should be able to throw some banners up and confidently hang on to them. The Knights went with 3 of theirs. Yield No Ground, Honor, forgive me there, Honor the House, Renew the Oaths, and Yield No Ground. So that was their objectives that they chose. So must be nice having good secondaries. No bitterness here. So looking at the Knight list, quickly covering that, there is, it's a free blade lance, so each Knight can take an ability from a different house. This is actually my first time playing Imperial Knight, so I was really excited about this as well. So Knight Crusader, I'm just going to quickly go through it. You can see it on the screen here if you want it in more detail. So Knight Crusader, Knight Paladin, a lone Armiger that hands out some buffs, I think it was. Then 3 Armiger Helverins that hunt. They're good at hunting monsters. Thankfully, I don't have a ton. And then 3 Warglaive Armigers as well. So here we are. This is the essentially the initial start of the game. So I ended up getting turn 1, and I went to be pretty aggressive. So we got the Zonethropes forward, using the pod to get some in there, and then the Raveners being launched forward as well. So getting in position for an aggressive push up at him. So turn 1 for me, things were going good. So to kind of sum up what happened here, I blew up one of the Armigers with thanks to 2 Super Smites, rolling a 6 on both Super Smites. He also popped the Feeling the Pain, but yet we took it out. It was, ooh, we're feeling good. So the Raveners, taking advantage of the Kraken strat, and then also using Synaptic Lure to get a reroll against another Armiger, which was dropped down to 4 wounds. So Raveners getting in at that would easily take it out, and then being able to consolidate and tie up another Armiger. So having the entire left flank tied up would have been huge to start. And then, as you can see on the right side of the table, I had Spore Mines positioned to completely block movement for the Armigers on the other side, unless they wanted to take a ton of mortals. So it restricted their movement to only shooting down at the Warriors or a few of the Gargoyles, which is okay. I still had the Pyrovores on the right side, so that objective was going to be held regardless. So that was the plan there. A few banners thrown up. Now, sadly, this is the shot of the end of the turn. So I failed a 4-inch charge with the rerolls with the Raveners. Oh, this hurt. It was really sad because this turn came out hot. Even my opponent was like, yikes, this is aggressive and I don't like it. Shardgullet firing in as well. I do want to mention, didn't do anything if I recall. So not off to a super start. Again, just shooting at targets that have involves, you run the risk with 3 shots. Even just missing one of those shots sucks. I know you're hitting on a 2-up and then failing to wound, and then involve factors in. So I don't know. I'm not feeling the best about it yet. Potentially another Warlord trait could have come in handy, but we'll continue on. So moving into the Knight's turn. And again, I apologize. I don't have a ton of shots here yet. So pretty much this last shot as we move into the end of the Knight turn is kind of where everything will end up, but I'll walk you through the rest of the game, of course. So please bear with me there. Again, I just want to give us fun recap into the event and my experience with this. And definitely moving forward, just like my other GT videos. The first one was kind of like this, getting into the scene and kind of getting caught up. And then the next one, we're able to get a little bit more consistent shots with it. But into the Knight's turn. They clap back. That's pretty hard. And so this is the end of the turn for them. Yeah, so I lost my Warriors, just vaporized. All I had to do was make 1 save, and I would have had 1 alive. Killed all my Raveners. Again, I lost. Yeah, they just... on the right side, that is. The Raveners on the left, they actually didn't take any damage, which was nice. I lost my Tyranid. I lost all but 1 Zonethrope. I didn't make a single invul save the entire turn. So it hurt. The clapback was real. I was feeling kind of yucky at this point. But definitely still had tons of legs and bodies to make a solid comeback. Again, I just had to get in and tie up some of the Knights. I know I can't do anything with the big ones. Initially, my plan was to take out the big ones, but the goal now is I just wanted to get rid of the one in the center. And then if I can hold the Armigers back, just stop him from scoring was the biggest thing. So into my turn, I decided it's time to make an aggressive play. I have to get myself into this game. So I took the Flyrant in the bottom left, as you can see. Just went for a standard advance roll. I had 2 CP here and moved up into the middle. So we were playing those center rocks as obscuring. So the little section in the middle you can kind of see through would have obscured my Tyrant. And we checked and position and I just had a placeholder for the Tyrant. Then we put it in the middle just to see how it could be placed. So the Tyrant was going after the Knight in the middle. I think that's the Paladin. I'm very bad for mixing them up, but the one in the middle with the black paint scheme. And so the Tyrant with a 6-inch advance, thanks to Kraken making me pretty fast, ended up very close. It was a 4-inch charge I think I needed. And I had to, if I took that knight out, I think I would be back in the game here, because the Tyrant could overrun, hide behind those rocks, and we checked from both angles, and not a single one of the knights would be able to actually see the Tyrant. So the Tyrant was in a position from there, it could launch either side of the table and essentially just guarantee kill a knight per turn. Or in the case of the armigers on the right side of the table, just halt their advance and allow my little Gribblies to sit there and score. So I moved the Gargoyles and the Pyrovores up on the other side, just on the off chance that my Tyrant didn't make it to 4-inch charge. I had 2 CP to spare, so ideal scenario here, we make the charge, do some slam attacks based off how my smites go, and other psychic powers, and see what happens. So all said and done, after psychic and shooting, Shardgullet ended up firing over there. We dropped this guy down from 24 wounds to 6. So feeling super good. Went to make my charge with the Tyrant, failed it. Another 4-inch charge failed. I didn't get Synaptic Lure off. Had to commit to doing smites and getting some Feeling the Pains out. And it just wasn't in range with anything else. Everything that was in range of the knight had to commit to smiting. And then my Tyrant, I had to use one of my CP for the slam attacks. I figured I definitely should be able to do 6 wounds with the Tyrant with the Reaper. Rerolled the charge, rolled double ones. So, it hurt. My Tyrant too was positioned just, if you're looking at the center rocks, just to the right edge of the rock, so it was exposed and could get blasted by, well, anything that wanted to look at it. However, my Pyrovores made a 11-inch charge, followed by my Gargoyles making a, I think, 10 or 11-inch charge, which really made me sad. Oh, that hurt. So yeah, I had to leave that objective on the right-hand side. I had to get to this knight. It had 6 wounds. I should be able to take it out here. So the Pyrovores came in, so the Gargoyles actually attacked, did, what was it? Did 2 wounds to it, so it's down 4. My Pyrovores, I used that dang stratagem, the acid one. It was, I should have, yeah. Oh my goodness, it's so sad. And anyway, they attacked, dropped it down to 2 wounds, and that stratagem beforehand, because you used it beforehand, I needed 3 up just to do 2 mortals, and I rolled 2 2s and missed it, and ended up doing 2 wounds to it with their attacks, dropping it down to 2 wounds. I was so close to killing it. I proceeded to turn around and stomp on my Pyrovores. I have no CP at this point. It would have been great to do the mortal wound for every wound I take, but unfortunately, it wouldn't have mattered. Oh man, it was rough. My opponent let out a hoot of joy, but then also gentlemanly said, "I am sorry." But no, it was sad, but it was a good game. It was enjoyable. I mean, what can you do and look back and laugh on that? Then on the right side of the table, I was able to use that lone zone thrope advance and start getting some behind the enemy lines points. Losing such a huge chunk over there turn 1 to the shooting really hampered my ability to score behind enemy lines. Definitely Psychic Interrogate I think would have been the better play, but making at least one of those involves turn 1 would have been snazzy. But yeah, that was pretty much the end of the game. Into his turn, he killed the Flyrant quite easily, and then I think killed all but one Ravener. That Zoanthrope actually lived, I think, to the end of the game. He could not kill it, and it was the reason I scored a few enemy lines points. He killed it, I think, turn 4 or something like that. But that was pretty much it. I just scrambled to try and score as many points as I could after that, just to keep everything tight. Shardgullet, again, not doing a ton. Yeah, it was definitely a thing. I was like, is it going to be worth it? Is it not? But anyway, yeah, so that was the end of the match there. We both looked at it and even kind of math hammered it out a little bit. That Tyrant living would have handedly won me the game and resulted in, I'd say, a pretty decent victory. I mean, it's hard to say. Again, it's a dice game. Not to say anything. My opponent very skilled as well, so the damage control and having that Tyrant running rampant might have been able to handle it. But again, just not being able to be shot for another turn and being able to come out, attack, and essentially jump right back to the same position would force my opponent to either stay in his deployment or risk giving up a ton of primaries and allowing me to get banners and other things like that going. But yeah, so it was good. Like, I talked after and I was like, in your opinion, like playing, I was like, do you think I could have done anything better as your opponent? He's like, and it felt good that he said everything that I did, he felt pressure and all the moves that were done, he felt like they were all done right, especially against him, that it really made him adjust game plans. It was just, what do you do? Failing four charges, which is good. Like, looking at it, I knew Kraken is a bit more, is much more challenging to play than Leviathan. So having to tighten up my positioning is huge. And even though I messed up, I didn't mess up. Well, I messed up by not rolling 4-inch charge. I did everything good there. So it set me off in a good place. Things, I mean, they can't get worse than that. I mean, they could, but got the rough game out of the way, you know what I mean? But here we are, ready to go into game number 2. So looking at the end of the day, or end of the day, not yet. The end of the round for scores. So it ended up being, what was it here for me? It was 53, so 53 to 97. I mean, a huge differential. The team scoring there was 2 to 18, as you can see. Nurgle definitely ate the game against the Yanari. It was an 0-20 there, unfortunately. But the Space Wolves were defeated by the Tau, so Guardsmen Gord getting a solid victory there, going 15-5. So had that Tyrant, looking back at it again, just to put a little bit of salt in the wound, had that Hive Tyrant have made the charge and things have gone a little bit more average for me in terms of rolls, I think the scores potentially could have been reversed there between the Knights and myself, and it would have been very tight. Again, having a 20-0 or 0-20 is a huge differential, but I think we may have, we either would have pulled the win out or had a loss by just a few points, and it would have resulted in a tie. But good feeling nonetheless. Got the tough round out of the start. Like I said, great game, great group of individuals to play against. So ready to jump into round number 2, and let's find out who we're playing against. All right, everyone, it's time for round number 2. So we got our loss out of the way. Rust is knocked off. We're ready. Whole squad's feeling good after this. Everyone's ready to see our next pair up, and we're up against Heroes and Heretics. So this team consists of Necrons, Salamanders, and Chaos Space Marines, specifically Creations of Bile. That's what it is. Fabius Bile's little... I don't know if it's an Army of Renown. I don't know a ton about Chaos, so it's something to do. Army of Renown, or it's something. Creations of Bile. Anyway, so looking at the pairings, we ended up being the defender. So we put Tyranids forward first. The one matchup we wanted to avoid here was Tyranids against Bile. Being that they fight on death and they trade very well into Tyranids. So it's one, out of all these matchups, that's the one we wanted to avoid the most. So we put forward my Tyranids, and then they put Necrons and Bile, of course, forward. So we chose Necrons. Then they picked a table that actually ended up really favoring the Tyranids in this, and you'll see in a moment. And then Nurgle taking on Salamanders, and Tau up against Bile. So this mission is the Scouring. For objectives, I went with Behind Enemy Lines, Raise the Banners, and Psychic Interrogation. For the Necrons, they went with Code of Conduct, Ancient Machineries, and Treasure of the Aeons. So some very solid Necron secondaries there. For his list, he had the Silent King, Illuminor Xeris, 2 of those little thralls, a few scarabs, a few wraiths, and then tomb blades, and then double doomsday, and then the big old bad Tesseract vault. So on paper, not many bodies to deal with, and a few big units, which I think really favored the Tyranids here. So I was actually quite excited about this matchup in terms of getting a nice point differential and getting our team in a good position to win round 2. So unfortunately, we were a little behind on getting round 2 started, so it was not rushed by any means, but just kind of like jumping into it, and we had a little bit of a break, so I was very eager to get into the game. So this is the only shot I have, very upfront. This was an extremely one-sided matchup. He had the forward move with the Necrons, and he made the mistake of leaving a pocket for the drop pod to come down, which had Pyrovores and a unit of Zonethropes. So they came in, Zonethropes rolled incredibly well, killing all but one or two Tomb Blades. Pyrovores fired and finished them off. Or sorry, the drop pod fired and finished them off. And then the Pyrovores took out, what did they do? I think they flamed some wraiths, if I remember, and I think killed one of them, which it stood back up, so all for naught. But behind enemy lines was scored immediately. Now the big rune you can see in the middle, and this is where I said the terrain favored the Tyranids. Most runes on all the tables were played as bottom floor, windows closed, and my Tyrant Guard could sit in perfectly in there, so they moved right up to the nook where you can kind of see where my Neurothrope is in the photo, and they sat there protected. Both Tyrants, the Tyrants just sat there waiting, the Flyrant waited to launch, and the Pyrovores had a huge space that they could spread out in the back to launch mines or mortals. And then my little fellas were able to just position, throw banners up, and move around as needed. And then just with the Zonethropes popping in the back, he failed to do anything to them. Failed, I think it was a 6 or 5 inch charge with the Silent King and the Wraiths. So I had Zonethropes just hanging out in the back. I used one group of Raveners coming from the bottom of the screen there. You can see from my side of the table over to the gray runes. There was a unit of Scarabs in there. They were able to come in, butcher them. Then there was a Doomsday Arc that you can see that was just close enough to the runes for me to tag it. And then they sat there. There was nothing it could do with its weapons being blast. Couldn't fire the main cannon, the little cannons. The Raveners don't really care about being tough 5. And with Synapse nearby, the Raveners just kind of hung out there. We held the Silent King and Illuminor Xeris in the corner. The Tesseract came forward, tried to do some mortals, I think killed, or did a wound to, I think, a Ravener unit. Not a ton happened with it. And then into my turn, this is my turn 2, just between all of these Psychic Madness, I was able to drop the Tesseract down to I think 6 wounds or so. Then the Flyrant launched out, killed it, then overran back into my deployment, and then into his turn. And then I also got my second unit of Raveners over. They blended the race, the second unit of race, and then my Zonethropes that survived actually mortaled the race down to nothing, and the Raveners finished them off. That were down at the bottom of the screen. And then for the rest of the game, my Raveners just held up the Doomsday Arcs, which just they sat there doing nothing to each other. The Tyrant just killed things, overran back, killed things, overran back. We ended up ending the game, killing the Silent King and just leaving Illuminor Xeris alive just to interrogate him and just jumping around the table to rack up points. So all said and done, it was not a Necron list that paired well into the Tyranids. So it was quite a huge victory, looking at a 94-35 win, which put the Tyranids at a 20-0 status. So very solid round for us to get the team going. Also for myself, again, it was a very rough matchup, but the way I played it was, I felt very, very crisp from the first game. I didn't make many mistakes, at least I found myself. Positioning was done very well. So that was a nice confidence boost after the first game, again, kind of knocking a little bit of rust off there. So we ended up 20-0 for my game, as you can see there. Tau, unfortunately, taking a big loss to the Creations of Bile. The table that they ended up on, the terrain just didn't have the decent enough sight lines to allow to allow the Tau to take them out before they got there. From what I heard, Gord had a very strong start to the game, killing a bunch of stuff. But then from that point onward, the old Fabius was able, well, I don't think Bile was actually in the list, but his creations were able to launch forward and get the work done. So unfortunately, Gord taking a big loss there. So our 2 games canceled out. So it all came down to Nurgle Snurgle. And of course, Nurgle Snurgle pulled out the win, so went clutch, getting a solid win for us, putting us into our first win for the team. So awesome for her to go clutch there and get Basement Wargaming its first team win. So it was a good round. Again, just kind of, it's really cool. Like I said before, I mean, not cool, it impacts you, but having different style of terrain, having to choose it, really, affects the matchup and is really crucial to how you position. So like in hindsight, looking at the table that I got put on, which the other team picked, perhaps one of the other ones would have been a much better option where some of the paths were a little bit more chokeholded. There's definitely a lot of open space in the middle, but with that giant rune and the bottom floor being boarded up, there's just too many spots where I could kind of like launch forward, and especially the Hive Tyrant being able to just this was a table that Overrun was just rampant with those Tyrant guard being able to hide right up tight to the center there, and him not having anything that could come up to threaten them. Once I locked up the race and was in his back deployment, it's just not a lot of bodies for this list, but yeah. So all said and done, that's it. So we're ready to jump into round 3. We want to hit our goal of going 2-1 for the day. That's a goal I'm more than happy enough. As long as we have good games, truthfully, I am happy with that. It just feels great to be back out playing again in the community. So let's move into round 3 and find out who we're up against.
That's good.
I didn't get flamered. I won my match against salamanders. That's right.
She got to win. Gordy went. There you go. 20.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go. No pressure.
What, this? Oh. So this is the team's tournament here. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. We've got a Justin, the white. We've got an Ian. We've got an Andrew. Am I still videotaping? I can't tell. Yes. We got a Mark. We got an Anthony. We got a Bernie. Hello. And his Iron Warriors, Siege Demons, Orcs. We got another Orc, Todd, and we got a Curtis of his Imperial Knights. We've got a Ken who showed up late.
Yeah, always do.
We've got a Aaron. We've got a Jeremy and his Creations of Life. We've got a Nicholas who's been TOing and looks stressed as fuck, but that's fine. We've got a Kier, another Creations of Wild. We have a Colton and Necrons. We've got a... I'm just kidding. We got a Gordy and his Tau. We got a Ryan and his Wolves. We've got someone, I don't know his name. McAdam? What are you playing?
Tau.
Tau.
Are you trying to film yourself?
What?
Are you trying to film yourself?
Am I not?
You're just filming the ceiling.
No, I don't know. Okay.
Wait, the ceiling on her?
It's on me now, right?
It is on you.
Yeah. You distracted me. We have a McAdam.
Yes. She was walking around. She was like off the floor.
And we got many more people here. And we've got the owner of the phone.
All right, everyone, here we are, round number 3. So we're 1-1, feeling good. Want to get that second win and get us going to our goal of 2-1. So we are up against Blood, Space Magic, and Fish Paws. So quite predictably with that team name, we're facing off against Blood Angels, Grey Knights, and Tau. So this was a matchup we had actually looked at. There is a few matchups on both ends here that are very favorable for us and not so favorable for us. So our goal here was ideally if we could get Nurgle Snurgle into Tau, that would be very crucial. And their whole goal was to keep Nurgle Snurgle away from Tau. And for us, the Blood Angels list was quite terrifying to both Snurgle and Gord. So we wanted to try and get Tyranids into there as well. So lots of pairings here that we were kind of wanting to see what we could do, try and avoid some, get some. In the end, they were the defenders, so they put Grey Knights forward. We put up Snurgle and Tau, being that we could guarantee at least the Tyranid and Blood Angel matchup. So they chose Nurgle, and then from there we paired up with Blood Angels and the Mirror of Tau. So that was going to be very interesting. This mission was conversion. And then for objectives, I went with no prisoners, raise the banners high, and psychic interrogation. The Blood Angels went with Abhor the Witch, Fury of the Lost, and Relentless Assault. So looking at the table here, he ended up getting a first turn. So this was a shot of turn 2. So starting the game out, it pretty much was like this. You can see me kind of circled around the middle here. You can see pretty much all of his angels tucked into the back rune. To start the game off, he launched a unit of a Death Company because they get their pre-game move. So I made a little bit of an error, and he, by all means, he warned me fully about it, but I was a little bit confident with the Raveners. You can see where the Warriors and Flyrant are in the center. I had Raveners against the line because he had a unit of Infiltrators off on Objective 4 on the right that they could have easily got to, cleared that corner, and just kind of floated around that objective. So I was really hoping to be aggressive there. I had a unit of Hormagaunts by them. I should have just strung the Hormagaunts around them. I was a little bit overconfident there, and didn't give enough respect to the speed of the Blood Angels, which was ridiculous. This is actually my first game against Blood Angels in all of 9th edition. I've been dying to play against them. So very excited about this matchup as well. So with the table set up, as you can see, like I mentioned, it was a game of cat and mouse. So this was the end of my turn 1. So you can see in his turn, everything just stayed there. It was that single unit that came out to make the initial push, took up my Raveners, which was huge. That would have allowed me to take a dominant position on pretty much all of the table while floating away enough to kind of force his units to split apart heavily or commit to one area and allow me to wrap around. So in my drop pod, I had the Pyrovores and Zonethropes. Again, I'm loving this combo. So what I did here is I dropped in the pod and the Pyrovores, and I had the Zonethropes positioned behind them, being that he had not really any shooting or psychic. The Zonethropes are guaranteed to stay alive and get 2 volleys at minimum smites going in. So between the Zonethropes, Pyrovores, and the pod, we were able to kill off 6 Sanguinary Guard, and the Tyrant was able to come in the Warriors on the bottom and clear out the Death Company who were up in my face. And I did lose a few Hormagaunts from the Death Company that came in as well. I think it was a Sergeant. It would have been the Sergeant with the Chainsword. Tossed in some attacks their way. So yeah, it was definitely a very, very big game of cat and mouse. So the one mistake I made here before I switch the clip, I think it's into turn 3. Spore Mine placement was one thing that I need to improve on. So I place Spore Mines, got a ton of them, I got 7, I think. I put them right in front of the Pyrovores, like touching them. I say work on placement, but also this is my, there's no excuse for it. So I forgot the Sanguinary, I'm just going to be upfront about it, you can laugh if you want. I forgot the Sanguinary Guard had bolters, and I had asked 2 to 3 times leading into the game. I even think during his first turn what he has for shooting. So I should have placed my Spore Mines in such a way that him jumping forward towards that area of the table with the Zonethropes, because he immediately saw the threat of the Zonethropes and the Pyrovores over there. So he launched towards them with Sanguinary Guard, a unit of Death Company, and Dante came out to play with them as well. So they came out, the Sanguinary Guard just killed all my Spore Mines. Had I placed them more forward, I would have really hampered his charge range, or he would have had to eat a ton of mortals. A unit of 7 Spore Mines, on average, should take out pretty much 1 unit of 5 Marines, on average, based off Feel No Pain's not going off and whatnot. But yeah, those oh man, what a mental error. Again, this was just, even my opponent said it a bit too, like during the game, it's just, both hadn't played a long day of Warhammer in a little bit, so it was just, especially during a teams event, it was a long day. So I made a little mistake there, 100% on my end, but that was just something to kind of like be mindful of as well. So a little bit of a mistake, but anyway, the Pyrivores tried to do some Overwatch because I was like, finally get to do some Overwatch. Hopefully we'll eat something there. He rolled phenomenally on his saves. Unfortunately, I was hoping to kill a couple things, but the Death Company and Sanguinary Guard made it in. Took out the Pyrivores quite easily, and then the Sanguinary Guard massacred the pod. I don't even know if Dante got the fight. They went berserk. They can do a lot of damage to things, especially things that do not have invulnerable saves. But anyway, the pod did its job to get the zone throps in there and do the job. So, and then he also had a unit of Sanguinary Guard that came down to fight the Tyrant. He whiffed hard on the roll. So this was an error that I made. So the Tyrant killing the Death Company down at the bottom rune on the screen there. I went to use Overrun to jump on towards Objective 4, but then I looked at his move distance. He can jump forward 14. I was like, no matter where I go over there, it's going to be an easy charge to get to it. So I was like, I'll leave it here, allow him to come. He had, I think, a 7 charge on the dice. I think it was something like that, to come get the Tyrant. Staying there allowed it to jump forward next turn and continue being aggressive versus jumping back. I should have played defensively, moved the Tyrant back, because here we go. This image is of turn 3. He launched the Sanguinary Guard in. He actually didn't kill the Tyrant, but I think it had 4 wounds left, and it was killed off all but 4 of them. So into my turn, yeah, I think that's what it was. Then into my turn, I used some Psychic Powers, killed all but 2 of the Sanguinary Guard at the bottom in combat with the Tyrant. Failed my smite with my Neurothrope, which really hurt. Yeah, I was pretty sad about that. Didn't do the reroll because I was like, oh, I'll be okay. He had 2 CP and he hung on to that. Was not going to spend anything. And then being my turn, I made a charge with the Raveners and another unit. And after I fought with the Raveners, he interrupted and fought with the Sanguinary Guard. Got the 4 wounds. It literally came down to a single dice roll that I CP rerolled to try and keep it alive, and he took the Tyrant out. But my warriors thankfully were able to finish them off, so this is the final resting screen of turn 3. So not too bad. The Hormigons were able to start pushing forward and take care of everything there. So in his turn, I had Spore Mines in the middle by the Venomthropes who were on Objective 1. He had a character come out and just accept that I'm going to die and jumped out. I think took like 10 mortals and was gone. And then then some Death Company were able to come out, get position, push over onto my third objective, or objective number 3 in the top left, fight the last zone throw, and he had the Blood Angels captain come up the middle. You can see him there by objective 1. Made a huge charge into the Tyrant Guard, handedly took all of them out. So things were not looking good. The Ravener is actually still alive with 5 bodies. They were able to take out the Death Company and the Sanguinary Guard that were there. So leaving only Dante alive, and then the final wave of his fellows to push out. So I was able to use the Warriors into turn 4 and the Hormigons to go on objective 4 in the bottom right to kill off a few infiltrators. Almost killed them off. There was 2 left remaining. Then he had his last unit up on objective and the top right on his home base. They actually left the objective. He accepted I need to push down to objective 4 because I had a banner on it. I had a banner being raised on it. If I could get into my command phase, would have had a banner there, a point score to that. I also held the objective, so he had to leave his home one to come get that, which actually ended up allowing me to rack up a bunch of points. So my Shardgullet Tyrant one-shotted the captain, and then proceeded to fight Dante, and they had a little bit of a duel for a bit. And the Hive Tyrant as well was able, between it was Psychic Powers and the Biowars finished off the Death Company up at the top on objective 3. That zone throw fell. So my Raveners at this point, I committed them to using the Kraken strat to launch onto his home objective, getting me 4 extra points for holding the objective in his deployment, as well as taking a dominant position in primary objectives. And this was actually what was able to win me the game in the end. The Tyrant had to kill off Dante, all said and done, so I didn't get my final turn of Interrogate, but it had to be done, or else Dante would have came back, slaughtered the Biowars, took my home objective, and threw off a banner. So in the end, I was able to kill off all but I think 2 of the Vanguard Vets and the 2 Infiltrators, and that's all he had left. And I was able to, I had all the objectives except for the center one, I believe it was. So I was able to rack up a solid amount of points at the end of the game. So final score here was 84-73. So I was able to pull out a win in the end. I do think with a few adjustments, again, with the Hive Tyrant going back into my deployment zone instead of sitting there being all cocky and strong and getting slapped in the face by some Sanguinary Guard. It would have had it alive. If that Hive Tyrant would have stayed alive, it would have allowed me to not necessarily get a ton more points, but I definitely would have felt more confident in how the game is playing out. I would have felt a little bit more in control, and definitely could have held damage control, say, up on objective 3 to allow to hold his push over there, or just come over and swept objective 4 and then allow the Warriors and Hormigons to push up onto his home objective. But in the end, though, very happy with how it played out. It was a wonderful game, tons of fun. It was very cat and mouse at the start. It was kind of funny. We both were like, who's coming out first? So very, very enjoyable game in the end. Great opponent to play with. Looking forward to a rematch and potentially a thematic game, Devastation of Bale, down the road we had talked about. So looking at the scores for the rest of the squad here for the round, unfortunately, we weren't able to pull out the win. Nurgle had a tough time against the Grey Knights. We were able to pull a big win over them. So the Tau as well, having a tight game, but unfortunately the Tau, not our Tau, were able to pull up the win. So it was a very back and forth game there for them, Gord was telling me. So, and then unfortunately for Snurgle, the Grey Knights just got the better of her there this time. So that was it for the event. So we ended up going 1 and 2, but in the end, they're all fantastic games. I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. It was good to get back out and see everyone. And just kind of get back into the swing of things competitively, and really solidified my love for Kraken. It is definitely, I think, going to be the list. We're going to do a breakdown of everything once we look at the army when we get back home. Back home. I'm home recording this, but the post recording you'll see in a moment. But all said and done, it was great because each round I felt like one of the teammates here on Basement Wargaming went big, which was awesome. So each round was kind of like a highlight moment. So round 1, unfortunately, my dice didn't let me shine, but Gordy pulling out a solid win for the team against the Space Wolves. And then in round 2, Nurgle Snurgle going clutch, getting us our 1 win for the day. So big shout out to her there on letting Basement Wargaming get 1 win on the board. And then into round 3, the win over the Blood Angels felt really good. I knew that was going to be a challenging match, so Tyranids got their moment there as well. So thank you everyone for listening through to this. Again, I will do my best to get better imagery done up in the future for the reports, but just getting to the swing of things again, staying more consistent on content creation and getting up for more events in general. So stay tuned for the post-event breakdown as I talk about the list, things I'm going to potentially change. And yeah, I can't wait for another team event. I hope we have one in the new year. The team did a fantastic job putting it together, and I can't thank them enough for just a wonderful day of 40K. Hey everyone, the event is over. We're back home now. Hope you enjoyed that recap, and what I'm going to do now is just talk about post-event thoughts and a little bit about the team event, and then also discuss my plans for this list. I think this may be my competitive focus with Kraken. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'll talk more on that in just a moment. So first off, experience with the team event, fantastic. Oh my goodness, what a blast. Obviously, in terms of scoring, didn't achieve the goal of going 2-1, but each match was loads of fun, and we had some good pairings, and I like that each member on our team got a good showing, with Gord going big to get our the first win for the team overall, not the entire team, but got a solid win to establish himself against a tough opponent. and then into the second round, Nurgle Snurgle coming in huge to give us our first official team win, which was fantastic. And in the third game ahead, a fantastic match against Blood Angels. Been dying to get that game in for a while now, and it was loads of fun, and also taught me a ton about the army. That match really gave me a lot of respect on how tight I need to play with spore mines and my overall positioning. So yeah, it's just really cool how you had to kind of pair up against everyone and really try to, as much as you can, arrange the matchups. I found most of the time you generally could avoid the one matchup you didn't want. It was more or less like with your team on both sides, it was almost each player or each team got one pairing that they wanted, and then the other two kind of were not the worst matchups every time. Like you kind of it was like you could either dodge your worst matchup or go for like a super good matchup. But yeah, it was really fun. I liked it, and it made you think about who you wanted to play against and look to the strengths of your teammates, as well as like it wasn't just about winning. Like if you knew you got a good pairing that you were going to absolutely smash someone, and your teammates knew this, then perhaps one of them can just go for the attrition, just keep the score tight, not necessarily worry about a huge win, but do what they could to ensure that the team got the overall W. So fantastic. It was so wonderful for the tournament organizers to put that together for us, first teams event in our area, and they did a phenomenal job. It is, like I said, just put a wonderful taste for team events for me, and I know I'm very excited to go again for that. It's just good getting out to see all the folks in the community as well. We have a very strong competitive community here, just full of really good people, and it's a kind of event where you leave and like I'd play every single one of those people again in a heartbeat. Win or lose, it's always a wonderful time. So can't ask for more than that, I think, when it comes to a local competitive 40k scene. So talking about the event, looking at my list, and we'll discuss that really quick and my plans for the future. So I do think I'm going to stick to Kraken. There's a couple other lists that, in terms of competitive play, have my interest. Leviathan's still on the table. There's chatter I've seen about the Turvagon and Termagants being a viable build. I'm definitely going to try it out, but I think Kraken takes the cake for me. I love the requirement in skill to play this list. Well, not just this list, but this Hive fleet. It really tests you as a player, and I like that there's so many tiny mistakes that can cost you big. But if you adjust and learn off of those, it's going to make you go big in the following, in the follow-up of those games. So in terms of the list, my adjustments, what I want to change, I'm not sure if the Venomthropes will play. Again, this is very terrain dependent, and where I do have so many infantry units, and with the Tyrannicite holding on to, my go-to for that is the Pyrivores and a unit of Zoanthropes. I love that pairing. I will talk about that in a second. But just generally, and with the Tyrant Guard hiding the Tyrants as well, it's just, I mean, I don't know. I think if I was to free up some points, it'd be them. I love the utility they bring, but that's 105 points that can go into quite a bit of other stuff. If I were to get rid of them, I would pull them out, and I would also take Synaptic Enhancement off the Tyrannicite. I'll mention that. And then between them, so between them and the Synaptic Enhancement and pulling off this Heavy Venom Cannon, that frees up enough points for a third Pyrivore and to bring the Parasite in the list. And I would also drop Shardgullet as well. It was nice, but a standard Heavy Venom Cannon I think is going to do the same amount of work, especially combined with the amount of mortal wounds we can do here. I think having the CP from that, switching Alien Cunning onto the Parasite is the way to go. I know this list is very similar to a lot of the high-end Kraken lists you're seeing out there, but I'm trying to do my own little spin on it as well. Like, for example, taking the Tyrannicite and Pyrivores, just trying something else different that fits my play style, and I've been enjoying it. So I think Venomthrope's probably on the chopping block. We're definitely going to play around with it, but yeah, we'll have to see kind of how it all shakes out. I have to get my hands on a third Pyrivore, which wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. I don't know if I'll be playing any events in the near future, and I always have my Biovores. I have another 3 Biovores. I can always proxy one in just to get a good feel for it. But in terms of adjustments, I think that's what I would do. Everything else played out very well. The one thing I will say I did bad on, and I can fully, I at the time, I don't want to own up to my mistake. Oh, I do, but just admitting it, the Spore Mine placement, that was a big thing. I need a bit more practice with that, especially in the Blood Angel game. As you heard earlier, I completely derped. That there was bolters on the Sanguine. That was my fault. There was no, like, I'd asked my opponent, I think 3 times up until that point, who was shooting. I forgot. So I should have placed them a little bit forward. So the Tyrannocyte that we mentioned earlier, my go-to will be the Pyrovores and the Biovores, dropping in with the Pyrovores, spreading in front, as you can see there, nice and tight to the Tyrannocyte with the Zoanthropes in behind, being protected with the Pyrovores, being able to absorb Overwatch or just taking some heat if needed, allowing these Zoanthropes to stay there. Or if these Zoanthropes do get some pressure as well, I mean, they are fairly tanky still. And then the Pyrovores living and getting to Overwatch. Generally, most things outside of like heavy tanks and mech stuff, they will do some decent damage into, but also depends on placement as well. So you can get janky, have these Zoanthropes behind some terrain, smiting off onto a target beside them or whatever. There's a lot of flexibility with it. I really enjoy that aspect, and also the synaptic enhancement. Originally, I was just going to pod in the Pyrovores. I debated on even putting the Raveners in it, which definitely, now having played it a bit more with double Raveners, would never do that. So with these Zoanthropes going a lot in the pod, there's synapse there. I don't need it on the pod itself, so I felt it was 10 points. I could definitely go towards something else, and cutting the Venom Tropes and the heavy Venom Cannon and synaptic enhancement frees up the points I need, especially in a list like this. Points get tight. Trying to make those little adjustments becomes very hard. Double Raveners obviously was ace. I loved how they played. Raveners have always been, you've heard me say it a bunch of times here, hands down, some of the coolest models, and I love everything about them, and I wanted to get a 3rd unit. Probably we won't. I think 2x5 is the way to go. I only ever get a 3rd one just because I love them so much, but too many other things on the project table with very little time to work at the said project, so I'd rather get them done before I focus on any new Tyranid models. Double Zoanthrope is ace. I think it's fantastic for this list, especially with little shooting. They're super fast in Kraken, can get to most things very easily. This shooting with the Raveners, even from the Tyrannocyte Pyrovores as well, can generally chew through any chaff units, and positioning with the Zoanthropes too, they can get janky and even just be used as counterpunch measures if things come forward, especially with the Biovores as well, dropping in mines. It is ace. And then in the troop section, I felt just the Gargoyles, Warriors, and Hormagaunts did everything neat. And then where we talked about the alterations of adding the Parasite, that with Alien Cunning, that is the 3rd bit of OBSEC that is just fantastic. Hive Tyrant performed very well with the Tyrant Guard. I mean, that and the Flyrant did everything is needed. I got a little sloppy with the Flyrant in the game with the Blood Angels. I should have overran it back to safety. So that's the other thing as well. Having double Tyrants, I did a few times get a little bit nervous with it, or I could have been a little bit more aggressive at times and made use of its movement with overrun, but all said and done, coming back from quite a hefty break of competitive play. So this was a good recharge of the batteries to kind of get my brain focused again on tightening my skill up. And that's why I like Kraken, and why I think I've done, not trying to sound like I'm tooting my own horn here, but I have played Tyranids for a while. I do feel very confident with them. Obviously, I have tons to learn. I'm going to be honest, I'm not an expert, but I feel confident with them, and I'm always trying to improve my gameplay, which is why I think I felt very good playing Tyranids, because at the start of 9th, they weren't the best faction, so you had to be very tight. Obviously, Hive Guard did a lot of lifting back then, but outside of that, you had to be very tight in how you played them, and when you're forced to play like that, it's going to make you improve as a player. So playing Kraken from Leviathan Warrior spam really makes you think about your movement, and again, it's just going to make you play better, learn the game at a better rate, and overall, just as a 40k player, not even just as a Tyranid player, improve your skills. So that's why I like it. Kraken, I think, is just going to be wins all around. Obviously, I'm going to dabble in other fleets for games on the channel because it's just fun, but competitively, I think Kraken, unless there's huge major updates with any data slates or points updates, this is going to be the core of my build. So thank you so much, everyone. So if you stay tuned, if you tuned excuse me, if you listen to all this rambling about my list and everything, thank you for that, and thank you for watching this tournament recap. I hope you enjoyed it. Any suggestions for improvements on the recap? Obviously, better video would be a fantastic, good place to start. But like I said, I hadn't seen a lot of these people since June, and had become good friends with a great many of them. And they're all just wonderful people, so I spent a lot of the day socializing and didn't have as much time for filming. This was, again, just my first event in a while, so it was kind of a mental well-being break, just getting out, enjoying myself. So definitely will improve on that if we can maintain attending events on a regular basis, which for me would be once every 2 months in an ideal world, which is quite frequent for my schedule, but we'll do our best. I have a lot of fun doing these. Big thank you to my team, Guardsmen Gord and Nurgle Snurgle. So you can check out Nurgle Snurgle's content in the link, the video description below. Definitely follow her on Instagram and YouTube. Show her some love. Just a wonderful individual, a fantastic painter, and just a joy to game with. So, and Gord, you all know Gord. Hoping to get him back out. He's in the same boat as me, just busy with life and family. So we haven't got as many games in, but love Gord. He's a staple on the channel here. You can go back, watch our older videos, but we're going to do our best to get some more games in. Some of my favorite games of all time have been against him, and there's a ton of iconic matchups from older editions. If you can sit through our older content with Tyranids taking on the Guard, it's a ton of fun. But thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Big shout out to our patrons, as always, Starlinked and Teus. Thank you so much for the support as we continue getting back to creating regular content, trying to do at least a battle report a week, or Tactica, and stay consistent with that. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great week, everyone.